Hello, welcome to An Abundance of Books. My name is Julia, and today I am a liar. If you are a long-time viewer of this channel, or short-time viewer, I guess, you might remember I said I was doing a read-along for the first day of spring, and there was going to be a vlog last week. That did not happen. Some personal stuff came up. I didn't like the book, and I missed an upload for the first time in over a year, so we're all sad. So today it felt only fitting to own up to my mistakes by doing the Contradictions Book Tag. I saw Sydney do this, so I'll link her and the original creator and all the questions down below. It's just 8 questions about how you are a liar, or about how your reading tastes contradict themselves. Starting with prompt 1, they're phrased weirdly, so I have to actually read it. I love this genre, but I didn't like this book. So the first genre that I love is thrillers, and one of my least favorite thrillers, I feel like there must be so many, but one of them is The Wives by Tarryn Fisher. This book was sort of universally panned despite being very heavily marketed. This is about a woman called Tuesday. She's got a really dumb name. It's definitely Tuesday or Thursday. Not that one is better than the other. Thursday. And at first you think that that's like a joke or a nickname or something, but no, it's her given name by her parents. It is about Thursday and her husband, who she finds out has other wives. You track down one of the women and you find out that she has telltale bruises and she's being abused by her husband, who is of course also your husband. So it's about these women who get to know each other, not like admitting who they are, forming a friendship, but it's a thriller. And I really didn't enjoy the writing in here, first off, but the big thing that everyone hates is the twists, which I think is fair. I will give this book credit because thrillers are hard, because a lot of them will rely on a twist, and a lot of twists have been done, so you try to do something different, and sometimes it works, and sometimes this happens. One of my other most read genres is sci-fi, and a book that I really didn't enjoy was The Circle by Dave Eggers. This is a utopian future. Facebook, Google has taken over the world and the apps are tracking you and stuff. It felt very amateurish and fear-mongery and like someone who doesn't understand technology. I'm a computer programmer, so I understand a little bit more about what can actually happen, and I just thought this book missed the mark. Prompt 2 is I rarely read this genre, but I loved this book. Sorry, I'm looking at my stack to find the book, which is The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. I read this for a work book club, which was a bunch of older ladies, so historical fiction is much more in their wheelhouse. But this ended up being something that I thought was really good and interesting and different enough from what I read, but still being accessible. It's about horseback riding librarians in Kentucky in Depression-era America. It's got a really interesting cast of women here. They are all really distinct and different and believable. Like they push back, but in an appropriate way for the time period, I think. Also those end pages, gorgeous. Yeah, this was something that like this cover doesn't do anything for me, but I was pleasantly surprised. So if historical fiction is not one of your genres, I might recommend starting here. Also just thankful to have something that isn't World War II fiction. Question 3 is I love this trope, but I didn't like this book. This one was pretty easy for me. It is Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. AI learning, robots becoming human, what is a soul? That whole genre, or trope I guess, is something that really appeals to me, and I've loved basically every book that it has ever been included in until this one. This is about Klara, who is a robot AI companion for a child, and it's just sort of about Klara learning about the world and being really naive and stupid. It skirts around a lot of the things that I love in an AI trope, like what makes a soul. The book doesn't seem to be interested in answering that question, or even exploring potential answers, which is really disappointing and such a missed opportunity. I think the book had a good setup and a sympathetic character in Klara, but the story Like, the plot was really boring. Virtually nothing happened. And it's too bad because I think that this is a more mainstream sci-fi book that people might get turned off of reading books that actually have this trope that are really good. Question 4 is I hate this trope, but I love this book. That one was also pretty easy for me. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. The main trope of this is friends to lovers. Not because I think it's a bad trope, I just sort of philosophically have a problem with the idea that men and women can't be friends. And I know that that's not the book's fault, and it's much more me, and the book doesn't necessarily say anything, it just always sort of is in the back of my mind. And also would be very easily fixed by giving either of the characters an opposite gendered friend that they don't fall in love with, but that almost never happens. It doesn't happen in here. But this is an incredible book. It made my top 10 of 2021. It is about Poppy and Alex, who have been friends for years, and they take vacation every year until they had a falling out. And now they're going on one last vacation, and it's just the most rom-com-y thing that I've read in a while. Just the perfect mix of humor and fun antics and flashbacks while also having an interesting romantic premise, but I think the calm in here is stronger than the rom. Question 5? I love this author, but I didn't like this book. This is another one that I think is definitely a me thing and not a fault of the book itself, but it is One in a Million by Lindsey Kelk. Lindsey Kelk I actually haven't heard booktube ever talk about, but she's someone that I really enjoy. I've read a lot of her stuff. I'm actually reading one right now. But this is a, what is it called? My Fair Lady retelling, which I was very interested in, but because I love My Fair Lady so much, and this didn't do what I wanted from a retelling, I found it super disappointing. I think a lot of people probably won't have that problem, but I did. I think it's about, it's been a while, a tech startup where they're fashion bloggers, and she like gives him a makeover to win a bet. Something like that. So it's a gender swapped My Fair Lady, which is a good idea in theory, but this turned into much more of a romance, and I didn't want that. My Fair Lady is not a romance. You can argue with me all you want, but it's not. So I think it's just a difference of expectations. If I hadn't known that this was a retelling going in, maybe I would have liked it more, but I think retellings in general just aren't my thing. And I want to just briefly mention After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm slowly going through Taylor Jenkins Reid's backlist, and she's just such a different writer. You really can't tell that her old stuff and her new stuff is by the same author. It's perfectly fine 3-star books, but it's night and day. So if you're interested in Taylor Jenkins Reid's backlist, I think just know that going in. Number 6, I previously disliked a book by this author, but I loved this book. This one I actually didn't have an answer for. I think if I read an author once and I dislike it, I'm not gonna pick them up again. If I like one and then dislike one and there's a mixed bag, as long as I like one of them, I will keep going. So my answer for this is a bit of a cheat, but I read Darling by K. Ancrum and really didn't like it. It's a Peter Pan retelling. Are we seeing a theme here? And I didn't like the writing, I didn't like the plot, I didn't like the characters. Not much in here, but I am still very hopeful. And I own The Wicker King by K. Ancrum, and I still have really high hopes for this. I wouldn't quite call it a 5-star prediction. Are 4-star predictions a thing? We should make 4-star predictions a thing. But yeah, other than this, I couldn't think of an answer. Question 7, I love this cover, but I didn't like this book. There's so many. I'm a big cover by a gal. One that comes to mind is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. I just think this is such a beautiful cover. I love the style of the title, like having the frame on it I think is really interesting. The illustration style is really cool. It gives you a good atmosphere, but I ended up giving the book 2 stars. And then another one, I gave this book I think 4 stars at the time, but I continually sour on it as the years go by. But In 5 Years by Rebecca Serle I think is just such a cool cover. It's got texture on it too, all of the gold parts and all of the green parts. are raised, and I think it's really interesting. It's somehow minimalistic with all the busyness going on. I don't know. It's just, and it's shiny. You know what? That's probably it. It's probably just shiny and I'm shallow. Yeah, this is a romance that's not a romance and ends up kind of just being like a sad book. And that brings us to the final question. Number 8. I don't like this cover, but I loved this book. Excellent question. If you are a frequenter of my channel, do you know what I'm gonna say? I always wonder how closely people pay attention, but you should, because this cover should be burned into your brain by now because of how horrifying it is. Today I am Carey by Shoemaker. This is, I describe as Klara and the Sun, but good. It's about another companion robot, but actually tries. But yes, this is the most horrifying cover of all time, but I will take it away so that you will be spared the nightmares. And talk about another book, Tell the Machine Goodnight by Katie Williams. A very strange cover. All of the sides to the house do end up relating to stories in here. Like you'll see there's a bee and there's like lizard skin and sky and fire. Those are all stories in here, but they don't need to be represented like this. This is a story about apricity, which is a machine that tells you what you need to be happy and sort of the fallout from that. It's almost like, well, it's not almost like, it is a collection of short stories that all weave together. Like each one is about a different person and how the apricity machine and what it recommends to them affects them. And it's really interesting. There's a story about a mom, and then one about her kid, and then one about a pop star. Like it's a really cool idea with a choice cover. So there you go. These are all of my contradictory book feelings. Let me know if you have any answers to the questions down below. Again, I apologize for not having that reading vlog up, but I'll talk about it more in my wrap up. But I'm here, I'm doing my scheduled upload thing. You can count on me for Christmas. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye.